are two dystopic options that have been discussed by independent researchers over the last 2 years. One of them is the universal basic income. That's a flat rate income that each person will receive that will determine where you live, what food you eat, and of course your movement. Welcome and good evening, folks, to an impromptu PLannedILlusion news alert. There are 3 items that have come into my radar that I felt that I needed to discuss with you urgently, and so I decided, okay, fair enough, I'll rather than do a full-on documentary, I'll browse through these 3 items and just discuss them openly. So nothing scripted, I'm just basically gonna go straight off the bat. And first up, we're gonna head to the PLannedILlusion Twitter, and I've got this rather interesting scene. This is essentially a video of a family who had put on a firework display. I want you to take notice of this kid over here by the fireworks, this kid over here at the front. Fireworks are sparking all over the place. This kid's still here, the baby's still out in the front. There you go. So they're totally oblivious of the impending danger and doom. They're sat there, you know, with deck chairs out. They must have a ton of fireworks on display, and you can see them. So the little kids sat right by the firework. This guy's nonchalantly lit the firework, no real control, sparks going everywhere, and you can see the little baby who was in the front chair fully openly exposed. And the more times I look at this piece, the more times I look at this video, I'm reminded of humanity, and hence I posted this tweet. And the heading goes, and in detail it reads, "This reminds me of humanity sitting idly by whilst fake pandemics, climate change, central bank digital coin, social credit systems, implosion of family and universal basic income are ushered in, oblivious." I mean, just have a look at that. And essentially, when that lot is unleashed on humanity, what you see here with the utter chaos of fireworks, explosions, that is analogous to what is going to happen to humanity. Look at the little kid at the front. That's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And this is humanity at large. Dumbed down masses out there are idly continuing on with life without a care, making plans for the future, making plans to buy property, to buy bitcoins, this, that and the other, without any real understanding or appreciation for the changes that are going to be ushered in. The quality of life will be so bad, they simply will not survive the food shortages, the fuel shortages that will mean you can't buy that which your family needs to sustain itself. But what is even more important is the fact that when this implosion occurs, most people won't have that family structure to even protect themselves. So this was the last news alert, which was entitled "The CBDC Attack on Humanity." And in detail, the description reads, "We have all been warned about the Great Reset and the detrimental effect on humanity as it wipes out personal wealth, destroys equity, and ensures the gap between those who have and those who do not have will never be bridged. The central bank digital coin or central bank digital currency goes much further than that, ensuring that digital money is programmable and subject to compliance to mainstream narratives. We examine the constraints to the quality of life once the CBDC is tied to the dystopic social credit system." So essentially what this video did was to have a glancing look at what a society will look like once you've got the central bank digital currency being the main currency with which you can make transactions. So I examined what life would be like if, say, for example, you were someone that isn't particularly anti-government in any way, shape or form. Is pretty compliant, but essentially just going about their lives, doing things that in previous years would have seemed perfectly normal. But because now it's attached, your behavior is attached to a rating system which punishes you or demerits you for behaviors that society deems antisocial. And I had a look at what happens when your social credit rating falls below a particular threshold. So you can imagine, therefore, then that once that happens, your ability to go and purchase goods and services, you'll have reduced capacity to be able to do so. I also mentioned the fact that if this is tied into the universal basic income, which essentially is a flat rate government allowance for people simply not earning enough to sustain housing, food, clothes. In some cases, they're not even working. Then this universal basic income will be given to them to allow them to make basic purchases and what have you else, and pay for basic amenities. But of course, this universal basic income will be tied to your social credit score and the central bank digital currency, which will mean even with the UBI, unless you have full compliance, your food rations, for example, may be greatly reduced. So this notion of independence goes out of the window. This notion of affluence goes out of the window. This notion of a future where you're in control, that goes out of a window. So lo and behold, I came across this piece today, and this is posted up on PLannedilLusion.com, and this is a piece from Mirror, and this is Rishi Sunka, and in detail, this exclusive, Rishi Sunka urged to examine universal basic income to protect Brits from future crisis. The aim here is to create a standard of living with so many controls that most people simply will not be able to survive. This will cause millions, if not billions, of deaths. And the mere fact that we have sections of our community who are totally oblivious to what's going on, sections of community who are, if you like, sitting ducks, sections of community even who are running away from the very defense mechanism that could ensure their survivability. In other words, running away from family. Huge sections of society will be prone to the government control of their lives, if you like, under the control of the universal basic income and all that entails. Remember that when this comes in, there will be a societal breakdown. And so you've got, I understand there are certain people who are selling, Bitcoin and buying gold and silver as a means of an out. You see, this makes the assumption that there's going to be some sort of infrastructure, a society with which you will be allowed to buy and sell gold. Once the central bank digital currency comes in, there are going to be controls that will restrict, for example, who has access to be able to sell gold and silver, who you will be able to sell gold and silver to, because of course it's tied to the social credit system. So if you're a person who's anti-government, anti-COVID, anti-hormone therapy for children, your social credit score is likely to be very, very low. And I can almost certainly guarantee that a low social credit score will curtail your ability to handle certain commodities, certain assets. Not only that, your ability to go onto the internet, that could be at risk too. So if that's the case, who are you going to buy crypto from and who are you going to sell crypto to? You see, these are, for me, real questions based on an understanding that we're looking at a societal implosion. And once again, if you've got a society where most women are now saying basically, we don't need men, then you've got a large section of society who are going to be totally vulnerable. Most people are going to be listening to this thinking, well, why are you specifically, targeting women? I'm not targeting women. I'm saying family is dependent on the decisions that women make. Okay, if women are choosing not to have family, basically family is over regardless. So for example, I came across this site by Wheat Waffles. Have a look at what he's saying here.
I think what's got to be asked after seeing the dismantling of the family in the West is, how did we even get to this point in the first place? I mean, if the family worked all from 70 to 150 years ago under the you're free to date whoever you want system, then what changed to make things so bad today? Well, the answer is many things changed. 1. Women entered the workforce, which allowed them to make their own money, so they were no longer dependent on men to provide for the family. 2. Benefits for single parents are now more generous than ever, providing an incentive to have kids out of wedlock. 3. Divorce benefits have also become so desirable that in some cases, a woman may be tempted to go even as far as splitting her family up in order to obtain the windfall of wealth waiting for her on the other side. In fact, adding a little more, this point has gotten so bad that a staggering 70% of divorces are initiated by women today. 4. Social media has given women unrealistic expectations in what kind of man they can get, which puts further pressure on the average to below average men they'll end up settling down with, aka they all think they can do better. And lastly, 5. Values of monogamy have been significantly eroded in recent decades. It's now seen as acceptable for women to live their 20s as a party phase, dating lots of different guys, sometimes concurrently, and then their 30s as a marriage and kids phase. Anyway, as you can see, every single one of these things has been a direct blow to the family. And the less families there are, the more inequality there is. I'll repeat. Less families equals more inequality. Because families are a unique thing which ensures a one-to-one distribution of men to women. If you take this away, dating will naturally follow the Pareto distribution instead, where the top 20% of men have access to 80% of the women. So, it's no wonder today's families are getting steamrolled and average to below average men are turning invisible.
So whilst many may disagree with what he's saying, let's unpack that in earnest. We have to understand that today's dating for women involves online dating and social media apps. These, I have to warn you, have been designed such that women have been rewired to have a totally different appetite as to what it is they're attracted to, and then also to seek validation and attention not from the traditional spouse or boyfriends, whatever else, but in actual fact from the dopamine effect they get from the likes on social media apps like, for example, Instagram. So let's have a look at what Wheat Waffles is alluding to in more detail. He's effectively saying that 8 out of 10 women find or are attracted to only 2 out of 10 men, meaning 8 out of 10 women find most men, 8 out of 10 men unattractive today. And that makes a lot of sense, because with the apps, women aren't looking through using these apps to test for the content of a man's character. By nature, with these apps, the first port of call is the attractiveness. And so the fact that women find most men unattractive therefore then cancels out 8 out of 10 men. All right, so the average guys, the 8 out of 10 guys, they're competing, okay, for the 2 out of the 10 women who aren't going for the attractive men. So can you see the inequality that Wheat Waffles was talking about is very, very real? What I'm saying here isn't just an attack on women. I'm actually trying to explain that systems have changed the nature of the way you view men and the world around you, your perception of reality, to destroy you. You destroy women and women's appetite for family. There are no families. Have a look at what Sarah Garvey says on this.
All societies, most societies and most nations are built off a core family, nuclear family structure, okay? The West seems to be straying more away from a nuclear family structure. And so if the men are building their society, right? Generally, men build societies, women nurture what's in the society. So if the men are building the society and women are nurturing what's in society, like I said, the women aren't right, and we need a nuclear family structure, yet and still this society teaches women to be independent. You don't need a man. You can do it all by yourself, okay? That is going to affect the moral fabric of the society in which we're living.
So there you have it. I thought that he articulated that so well. Let me just break it down like this. So the enemies of humanity, they have an agenda to impoverish women, to enslave them. So this notion of independence and wealth is nothing but an illusion. So if you consider the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, our local governments and whatever else, they're all taking steps to and I mean significant steps to implode economies. So let's have a look in earnest. Rental prices alone are on the increase and house prices are now out of reach. All that sounds like doom and gloom. So what is the point of all this? As I said, I came across these articles, those previous articles, and this is a well orchestrated plan that's been in place for decades to destroy humanity, and it's just the manner with which it's done. Look, I also understand that much of this is spiritual. All of this is a spiritual attack on humanity being played out here on earth, and I feel that my role is at least to understand what is the truth, and also to start to make an informed decision as to what to do. So if I were to be asked what my advice would be, it would be first of all to stop and think realistically about the future based on what we know the New World Order is planning. Make realistic plans that involve finding a mate or a partner that you can weather the storm with. Remember, you see, 2 people with low social credit scores is still better than 2 people who have restrictions on what food or commodities they can purchase. If they come together, they're still better off than if they were by themselves. Remember, you cannot rely on your local community or even friends to help you. We don't have that. We don't live in that society anymore. And certainly when there's a food shortage, you will see the worst of humanity. So essentially then you got to find someone that you're prepared to sacrifice yourself for, okay? Because don't forget, I feel that we've got to understand, let's go back to what Jesus Christ was trying to tell us when he walked the earth. The greatest gift that he gave us through our Creator was love. Love conquers all. But in order to do that, true love is self-sacrifice. In other words, you're prepared to sacrifice something of yourself for the next person. Newsflash, if the other person does that for you, guys, that's a relationship right there. That's a relationship that can weather the storm. The next thing to do is store up non-perishable items, non-perishable foods. And I believe, guys, store up cash. Because, you see, again, going out to spend the last of your cash, think about it, on gold and silver or cryptocurrency, believing that there's going to be an infrastructure available for you to be able to trade, for you to be able to buy and sell goods from, I think that's woefully naive. I think that's dangerous also. It really is dangerous. Believing that there's going to be an infrastructure in place that will even allow you, make it permissible for you, given that everything will be in place to ensure that you are enslaved. Again, it's naive. So regardless of what's coming, keep cash and food or goods to sell so that you, along with others, can still survive. If you can make a private purchase that's not subject to the price that's set by the arbitrary prices that have been set by the economy, you can buy and sell goods between you and the other people around who are like-minded in your community. And you can do so without the prying eyes of the establishment. If you can do this with a significant other, you stand a chance of survival. So once again, love is what will get us through this. As cheesy as that sounds, look around you and see how far love has been replaced by fear, anxiety, and hate. And in the case of women, our most prized possession, they've been told that they should get rid of their men, they should be in fear of men and be independent, that they're going to prosper in an environment that simply will not exist. Okay? For us men, having relationships, being in love, that is essential for us to be able to stand up and fight the establishment if we have to. There's none better than a man who's got family and love with which to stand for. And there's none better than that. A man who doesn't have that, who has nothing with which to die for, he has nothing of any significance to die for, is a man that will die alone for nothing. This is PLannedilLusion. News alert.